this button will give you a painful electrical shock. Something like 60% of men and about 20% of women administer the shock. That we are so uncomfortable doing nothing that we just want to feel something. We need some kind of sensation.
지금은 정보의 홍수 시대입니다. 가만히 있어도 내가 관심 있어 하는 정보들을 코앞으로 가져다주는 큐레이션으로 인해 우리는 더욱 편리한 삶을 살게 되었습니다. 하지만 단점도 존재하죠. 내가 진정으로 하고 싶었던 것들을 계속 미루게 되고 못하게 되는 경향도 높아졌습니다. 집중력 저하 시대입니다. 이거를 현명하게 해결한 사람과 해결하지 못한 사람은 정말 큰 차이를 만들어낼 것입니다. 여러분도 이러한 문제가 있으시다면 이 영상을 끝까지 보시기 바랍니다. 초집중책의 저자 니르이얄이 이에 대해서 이야기합니다.
That most distraction, it turns out, is not spurred by the external triggers at all. Most distraction does not start outside of us, but rather starts from within. That the root cause of why we become distracted is because we feel these internal triggers, these uncomfortable emotional states that we seek to escape. So if we're going to answer Plato's question of why do we get distracted, why do we do things against our better judgment, we have to start one layer deeper with first principles of why do we do anything? What's the nature of human motivation? Neurologically speaking, we only do things for one reason, and that is to avoid discomfort. Physiologically, we know this is true. If you go outside and it's cold, that's not comfortable, what do? You put on a coat. And when you go back inside, now it's too hot, that's not comfortable, you take it off. If you're hungry, you feel hunger pangs, you eat. And when you're stuffed, oh, that doesn't feel good, you stop eating. So physiologically, we feel this all the time. This is called the homeostatic response. The same rules apply with psychological sensations, not just with physiological sensations. So when you're feeling lonely, check Facebook. When you're uncertain, you Google. When you're bored, check the news, check sports scores, check Reddit, Pinterest, whatever. All of these things cater to these uncomfortable sensations. So that means if all human behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort, that means, as you said, time management is pain management. And so this is why it is the most important first step, that with all the ways you can, life hack yourself and all of the guru's technique du jour, fundamentally, if we don't deal with this fact that we are trying to escape an uncomfortable sensation when we become distracted, if we don't understand it and learn new methods to cope with that discomfort, we're always going to be distracted by one thing or another. And this is by design. I think one of the things that bothers me, by some self-help experts, is that they kind of preach this gospel that somehow if you're not happy all the time, if you're not satisfied with your life, somehow something's wrong with you. And it turns out that evolutionarily speaking, nothing could be further from the truth. That our species is designed to be perpetually perturbed. Right? We have this instinct of feeling bored to prod us to go do something, to go search, to find better resources, to improve our lot in life. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That we can harness that, right? This is the same impulse that helps us develop life-changing medicine, helps us invent new things, helps us shoot for the moon. It comes from that desire for more. So I don't think the answer to all of our problems is to not want, to not crave, to not desire. I think the answer is to channel these internal triggers towards traction rather than distraction.
우리는 불편한 감정을 느끼게 됩니다. 그리고 그것을 해소하려고 하죠. 조금이라도 지루하면 바로 페이스북을 켜고 유머 페이지를 보게 됩니다. 조금 따분하면 바로 유튜브를 켜는 것도 바로 그러한 이유인 거죠. 인간은 더 나아지고 싶은 욕망이 있습니다. 불편한 것을 해소해서 더 나은 상태가 되길 원하는 거죠. 출퇴근할 때 걸어가는 것이 불편해서 그거보다 나은 수단인 대중교통을 이용하고요. 이러한 팬데믹 시대가 됐을 때 실제로 출근하는 것이 아니라 원격으로 그 일을 할 수 있게 하는 것도 우리의 불편함을 해소하는 방법 중에 하나입니다. 모든 문명의 발전은 이러한 불편함을 어떻게 개선할까에 대한 결과로 이루어졌습니다. 결국 이 불편한 것을 올바르게 해소하는 것이 자신을 더 나아갈 수 있게 할 것입니다. 그런데 우리가 더 잘해야겠다, 집중해야겠다라는 강박관념이 오히려 우리의 발목을 잡을 수가 있습니다.
And it turns out that strict abstinence for many behaviors backfires, particularly behaviors that are very difficult to avoid completely. So, if you're a recovering drug addict, you might be able to abstain completely from a substance you abused. But how do you abstain from food if you're on a diet? We have to eat. How do you abstain from technology these days? I mean, it's imperative to do our jobs. We can't just say, stop using email for 30 days, you'll lose your job, you'll get fired. So for those type of potential distractions, we don't want to just abstain, and just to dive into, because I think the research is so interesting, when we do abstain, when we tell ourselves, no, absolutely not, it's almost like pulling on a rubber band. That when you pull on a rubber band, you stretch it, and you let go, it doesn't just go back to where you started, it ricochets even further. And that's what happens when we employ strict abstinence. We tell ourselves, don't do it. Okay, fine, I'll give in. And that sensation of relieving the discomfort of telling yourself not to is itself pleasurable. This is a big reason why smokers get addicted to cigarettes. Smokers, when they are mindful about the experience of smoking, they actually rate it as not pleasurable. It's stinky, it's not very pleasurable. There's nothing inherently pleasurable. Nicotine does make you feel a certain way, but many smokers don't actually report it makes them feel good, it just makes them feel something. What gets them to keep smoking is not only the physiological effects of the nicotine, what more so gets them addicted is telling themselves, don't do it. Finally, I smoke, and now I'm relieved of the discomfort of having to tell myself, don't do it. So strict abstinence oftentimes backfires.
나는 절대 그것을 하지 않겠다는 강박은 오히려 악영향을 미친다고 하죠. 반작용을 만들어냅니다. 고무줄을 당겨서 놓게 되면 그 자리로 오는 것이 아니라 더욱 앞으로 날아가게 됩니다. 여러분들이 참고 인내하다가 결국에 그것을 하게 되면 더 큰 만족감으로 오게 되는 거예요. 담배를 억지로 끊었다가 다시 피는 즐거움, 게임하고 싶은 거 억지로 참았다가 게임하면 훨씬 더 큰 만족감이 생기게 돼요. 이는 오히려 그것을 통제하기보다 거기에 중독되어 버리는 현상을 만들게 된다고 합니다. 그렇다면 이를 어떻게 해결할 수 있을까요? 그는 10분 룰에 대해서 설명합니다.
Here's how it works. You tell yourself that you can give in to any distraction, whether that distraction is, checking email when you want to work on a big project, whether that you're tempted to Google something or eat that piece of chocolate cake you don't want to have. You can give in to that distraction in 10 minutes. 10 minutes of doing what psychologists call surfing the urge. When it comes to these uncomfortable emotional states, we know that emotions don't last forever. In the moment, we think they will last forever. That's how the brain spurs us to do something about it, right? It spurs us to action by making us think, I don't want to feel this way anymore. But logically, rationally, when we think about it, emotions are like waves. They crest and they subside. So we can surf these urges like a surfer riding a wave. So for 10 minutes, what I oftentimes do, I'll take out my phone, I'll say, set a timer for 10 minutes, I'll put my phone down. And my job for those 10 minutes is to simply reflect on that sensation and talk to myself the way I would talk to a good friend, with self-compassion. So what many people do when they tell themselves no, when they try and not get distracted, they fit into two buckets, the blamers or the shamers. The blamers say, oh, it's my phone that got me distracted. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's Slacks. That thing got me distracted. The shamers, this is the category I used to fall into, say there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this job. I'm lazy. I have a short attention span. There's something wrong with me, right? And we shame ourselves. And of course, that's not helpful either, because where does this shame spiral lead? It causes more internal triggers, which makes us even more likely to seek a distraction to escape that uncomfortable emotional state.
Yeah.
So how do you diffuse it? You don't become contemptuous, you become curious. So for 10 minutes, your job is to reflect on that sensation, to feel that sensation with curiosity rather than contempt, or to get back to the task at hand. And 9 times out of 10, by just setting that 10-minute rule and saying, I can give into that distraction, I can have that chocolate cake, I can go check my email or Google, whatever it is that I am tempted to do, but in 10 minutes.
내가 한 곳에 집중하고 있을 때 방해 요소들이 생기게 돼요. 10분 룰은 그 방해 요소가 생겼을 때 딱 10분 뒤에 다시 생각해보는 것입니다. 내가 오늘까지 처리하기로 한 업무가 있는데 계속 핸드폰에 카톡이 울리기 시작해요. 근데 그거를 계속 보게 되면 집중력은 흐려지게 되고 마감 시간까지 마무리하기가 너무 어려워집니다. 순간적인 충동이 몰려올 때 이렇게 생각을 해야 돼요. 10분 뒤에 다시 생각해보자. 10중 8구는 이 과정을 통해서 그 10분 뒤에 그것을 하지 않는다고 합니다. 왜냐하면 그것이 옳지 않다는 것을 알고 있기 때문인 거죠. 순간적인 충동을 억제하는 겁니다. 간단한 팁이지만 매우 유용합니다. 우리의 집중력을 저해할 수 있는 것들이 이 세상에 너무 많아요. 그리고 이를 어떻게 대처하느냐에 따라서 내가 원하는 것을 그 어느 때보다 빨리 얻을 수도 있고, 반대로 내가 원하는 것을 절대로 얻을 수 없는 그러한 시대가 온 것입니다. 여러분은 시대의 흐름에 압도당할 것인가요? 아니면 압도할 것인가요? 여러분들의 성공 마인드 동반자 작심만일이었습니다.